In today's episode, I will be telling you everything you need to know for how to travel Bali, Indonesia. Welcome to the Wanderlust Woman podcast, hosted by Noah
and Vanessa.
We're a married couple who loves traveling the world and sharing all those experiences with you,
whether it's good or bad.
So now let's jump right into today's episode. So in the year 2025, everyone and their grandmother has likely heard of Bali, Indonesia. You've seen it online. Maybe you're aware of the reputation it has, and it's associated with certain kinds of people and travelers, which we'll get into all that stuff later, with like the overrated, the underrated, expectations versus reality of Bali. But from my own personal experience, which you should definitely take to heart because, it's just perfect way to understand a place. No, I mean, from my own personal experience though, Bali is an incredible destination. It's world-class, one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited, one of my favorite adventures and experiences that I think about often, I reflect on it, and I'm just deeply appreciative of. So it's one of those travels and trips that was deeply fulfilling to me in many different ways. So definitely don't write it off. But just some basic experience or basic information about Bali is Bali, of course, is an island in Indonesia. It's not its own country, even though it's referred to as a separate entity so often. In Indonesia, it's a massive country with millions of people. It's one of the top 10 most populous countries in the world. And Bali is just one island among those thousands of islands in Indonesia. But what makes Bali super interesting is Indonesia as a country is Muslim majority. Most people that live in Indonesia practice Islam. But in Bali, the majority of people that live there practice Hinduism. So it's a Hindu island. So religious practices and customs, the architecture, and just the cultural feel of Bali is going to be very different than a lot of places in Indonesia, as I could imagine. I've been to a few different islands in Indonesia, but Bali just has a very strong Balinese culture and feel for that reason. So that's something to consider as well. The best time of year to visit Bali is going to be, because it's in the southern hemisphere, their dry season, because Bali is a tropical island, is going to be April to November. So it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid in most parts of Bali, although there are some parts that are cooler in the diverse landscapes of Bali. So year round, you're going to expect some heat and humidity in most parts of Bali, but that's going to be the best time. It also means it's going to be peak season. So maybe consider, number one, visiting during the shoulder season time. So maybe April or November, or maybe October, I should say, or going to some other lesser known areas of the island because there's so much to see and do and explore in Bali. The actual island itself has 4 million people, but most of those are going to be concentrated in some of the more touristic areas, which we'll talk about later. So that's some basic information. When you fly into Bali, you're going to be flying into Ngurah International Airport. It's in the area of Kuta, so it's going to be southwest part of the island, which is the very touristic part of the island as well. To get from the airport to other areas in Bali, which you're going to be staying in presumably, you can take a taxi from the airport, but this could be very overwhelming. There's you can book a taxi there. But what I really highly recommend you do, so you don't have to worry about potentially getting ripped off or just figuring things out once you touch down ahead of time. If you have a hotel or an Airbnb or whatever booking option you chose, message the host and see if they can do a pickup option from the airport. They're always going to give you a pretty reasonable deal compared to right at the airport. And that way they'll have a sign for you. So you just don't really have to worry about figuring things out on the fly once you arrive. Because if you're like me and you're American, you're going to have a very long flight from your country to Bali. It's going to be multiple connections. It's going to be expensive. It could be a day of travel, if not more. So do that ahead of time and you will be very thankful, I promise you. In most of Bali, it is cashless. There are some markets or some certain situations where you're going to need to pay actual cash, which they use the rupiah. And so just keep that in mind for currency. And I don't think places will really accept the US dollar or anything like that. So that's the basic information about Bali. Now let's talk about why you should visit Bali. So number one, the main reason is going to be natural beauty. The landscapes in Bali are unbelievable. It's called the Island of the Gods for a reason. Number one, because, I'll get into that later, but the landscape if you believe in God, you could definitely see that he worked his magic in this island. So when I think about the landscapes of Bali, number one is going to be the rice fields. Now, I love rice fields. I think they're beautiful. I think they're majestic and elegant, and it just feels like a whole different world, especially the way they are in Bali. Some people might think it's overrated or silly to fly like all the way to these chain of islands just to see rice fields, but they're absolutely gorgeous, especially the ones in the east and center of Bali, because there are many different parts of Bali, such as the south, areas like Uluwatu. And the scenery of Uluwatu is going to be more like beachy. It's like a beach kind of surfer town feeling, but it has these beautiful cliffs that are really massive and some of the nicest beaches across the whole island. Because actually, Bali does have lots of beaches, but not all beaches in Bali are created equal. Especially like along the west coast of the island, they're very black, kind of grayish brown volcanic soil, but not that like brilliant black, like exotic volcanic soil or volcanic sand. It's going to be just kind of dull, not very flattering colors of sand that you'd expect to see in a beautiful tropical destination like Bali. So the rice fields, though, are going to be in areas like Ubud, which is one of the more popular touristic areas. It's in the center of Bali. It's a great place to stay and like jump off to other areas. And you're going to have volcanoes across the island, such as Mount Agung, which is more east. It's beautiful. I think it's like the biggest mountain / volcano on Bali. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's surrounded by rice fields as well. So just incredible landscapes that feel so like it'll leave such a strong impression on you as it did for me. And of course, so you have the volcanoes, the rice fields, beautiful beaches in areas like Uluwatu, and some other areas that you can visit as day trips, which are commonly associated as like visiting Bali, but are actually different islands, so therefore a different place entirely. Although they're fairly easy to visit from Bali as like a day trip option, which I'll get into later. There are also a plethora of waterfalls to visit all across the island of Bali. Some of the most beautiful in the entire world, in my opinion. I've been to Niagara Falls, which is like a massive, ridiculously big waterfall in America. Or not. Well, yeah, bordering America and Canada. So I've seen some ridiculous, majestic waterfalls in my life. Also, like in like Oregon and Washington, there are some incredible waterfalls in the USA as well. The waterfalls in Bali are like as good as anything I've seen. And you can have some that are going to be heavily touristed, where there's going to be lots of crowds. And you can have some like all to yourself, which I'll get into more later. Of course, I'm getting into a lot of stuff later, guys. I just got to lay down the foundation and like kind of sell you on Bali before telling you all the things you need to know if you're going to plan your own trip. So the landscapes are unreal. And also, because of the Hindu majority of people in Bali, the culture is just so rich. And this is going to take place in lots of temples that you can see across Bali that are beautiful. They're built into the landscape in a lot of places. And the architecture is just so unique. They use lots of like volcanic stone, lots of these really beautiful, striking like statues of certain Balinese gods or spirits. I'm not too familiar with the religion in Bali, but those will be on display. And the architecture is just beautiful, and they're built by like either like rice fields or mountains or like on the seaside, on cliffs right above the ocean. It's just magical. And then the wildlife you can see in Bali is pretty cool as well. Be aware of the monkeys. They are pretty menacing. Not menacing, that's a little too strong of a word. They're really mischievous, and they might bite you if you're not careful. They might harass you for food, and it might make a cute, interesting wildlife experience very unpleasant very quickly if you're not careful. So you can see monkeys around Bali, and of course you can see wildlife like dolphins, which I'll tell you more about later when I talk about the different areas that you should visit in Bali for planning your own trip. Also, the food. I think the food in Bali and Indonesia as a whole is heavily slept on. When I think about my favorite cuisines in the world, I'm biased. I love Mexican food. Everyone loves Mexican food, I hope. Indian food, just so strong and rich, the flavors. And I think like Southeast Asian food for me is like right up there in my top 3. Maybe Italian food some days can be up there. I love Middle Eastern food too. I love all foods, but the flavors of Southeast Asian food is ridiculous. And I love Thai food. I love like Malaysian food, but Indonesian food I think might be my favorite combination with so many different things to offer, because actual like Balinese or Indonesian food some of my favorite dishes. One is nasi campur, which is like I like to think of it as like a Southeast Asian or Indonesian Thanksgiving plate, with rice being one of the staples, one of the, like, the foundation of the dish. And then there's so many little side dishes like on the plate, some different curries, some maybe like satay, which satays are like, think of like a kebab or like a barbecued skewer, but with like some Indonesian spices and like a rich, creamy, spicy peanut sauce to dip in. It's absolutely delicious, because what I love about Indonesia is because it's so many islands, there was so much trading going on, like, and like exchanging, like, I guess maybe recipes or ingredients from like India. So there's a heavy Indian influence with these like Southeast Asian local plants and ingredients that they use. So you have Indian spices with coconut milk, with lots of really good rice, and just everything is just really good. So that's satay and nasi campur. Rendang is like one of my favorite dishes of all time. I'm vegan, so all my versions of these dishes that I ate will not have meat, of course, but typically it's like a slow, simmered, cooked, like beef, not stew, because it's like, again, uses coconut milk and lots of spices and some heat, and it's just so rich, and it's just so much flavor. It's amazing. I really can't even describe it. And then they have flatbreads like roti canai, which is like influenced from Indian food. It's like kind of like a naan, but like paratha. So it's really soft. You can like fry it, and it's just perfect with curries and dips. And of course, Bali has their own curries. And then also, I'm still telling you about the food in Bali, there's more to this, of course, than just what I'm saying, but these are some of my highlights. Mie goreng, which literally means fried noodles. I think it is like my favorite noodle dish, at least my favorite fried noodle dish in the whole world. You can buy it at grocery stores in America. Just look for Indomie mie goreng, like in the store. Make it yourself at home. It's not going to be as good as Indonesia, but this will just give you an idea of like the flavor of this recipe, because it's just so good. It's spicy. It has like sweet because it uses an ingredient called like ketchup manis, which is like a sweet sticky soy sauce. And then it has like chili, like a sriracha kind of flavor. And it's just perfect mixture of sweet, salty, and spicy. And it's just delicious. You can pair it with vegetables and so many other things. They also use sambal, which is like a spicy chili dip, which you can use with your rice or like your skewers, your satay, and all these different dishes. So the flavors are just strong, spicy, rich, creamy. There's just so much going on, and it's just absolutely delicious. I love the food in Indonesia, heavily underrated, and that's just like a brief introduction, because I could do a whole podcast on food from like Indonesia and Southeast Asia in general. It's amazing. So the food, the culture, the landscapes, and just like the kind of diversity of experiences you can get across the island, which will lead me to the next point, the reputation of Bali. A lot of people think it's overrated. A lot of people think it's become like a touristic hellhole, which it certainly has been. And a lot of people, they want to go to Bali for this like touristic kind of experience. What I learned after visiting Bali is, number one, it's heavily visited by Australians, which no problem. I love Australians. Good people. I would love to visit Australia one day. But it kind of is to Australia what maybe like Ibiza or Ibiza is to like people in Europe, or what like Cancun, Mexico is to people in the United States. It's like a cheaper, exotic party holiday destination where they can just go for like a shorter break, and things are cheaper there. The weather is really nice, although it's like, nice in Australia. And people just go there just to kind of like go crazy and like have just like a party, to go to beach clubs and just drink a ton and go to resorts and that kind of thing. So that might not be what you're wanting from your trip to Bali. That certainly was not what I was wanting. I was wanting like an exotic adventure with like learning lots of culture and new foods and just seeing some beautiful places and like feeling like internally enriched from this experience. That's why I travel, and I hope that's why you might want to travel as well. At least some of those reasons hopefully overlap. But so if you're going to those areas, these are going to be areas in parts of Bali that are Kuta, which is like by the airport. That's one. Seminyak is another. It's kind of in the Kuta region as well. It's very heavily touristed, lots of parties, lots of beach clubs. And then, of course, the number one you should be aware of, Canggu. Because Canggu has done a really good job through other influencers as being marketed as this beautiful, chill escape from like the Western world where digital nomads can come and like reconnect with the beautiful culture, the landscape, and live this perfect digital nomad lifestyle. But Canggu has become so busy. I went in 2022 and it was already like a nightmare. And since then, it's gotten way worse. The infrastructure is not built for all like the tourists that are not even like tourists now. They're becoming residents of Bali. They're moving there, starting businesses, working remotely. And what Canggu has to offer that is really cool is beautiful cafes and restaurants, really cool businesses because of, I don't know, like all the creative people that are moving there. But culturally, it's not very rich. The beach in Canggu is not beautiful at all. It has a really nice sunset, to be honest. It's called Batu Belong Beach. And it's a really good surfing beach in some ways. Like it has strong waves, but it's really busy. And the waves can be really intense for beginners. So if you book with a surfing instructor, it's probably a good idea. But if you're just like learning and want to rent a board and have a chill day surfing, it's really not a good place to surf, to be honest. So those areas in particular, Seminyak, areas around Kuta, and Canggu, be careful. Be aware. Go there if you want to like maybe like have some like days at the beach club. If you want to eat at some really beautiful cafes with like the beautiful like bamboo boho chic vibe. They have like yoga studios there. They have like weekend markets that are of course mostly tourists selling stuff, which kind of can feel a little gross in a place where like tourists have kind of like taken over or like westernized. It's like almost like a colony kind of feeling in some ways, which I don't really want to see Bali become that. And I'm sure besides the money that comes in, the locals don't want that to happen either. And lots of the local areas are being destroyed, like the like forests or jungle are being taken down to like build new hotels or new places for tourists. So that can be a really big problem. Which I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest. So keep that in mind. Don't spend the bulk of your time there if you want to like adventure and get some culturally rich experiences and adventures throughout the rest of the island. So that's how Bali can be extremely overrated. But I think because of that reputation it has, Bali has actually started to become extremely underrated because I don't hear people talking about, like I said, the culture and the other areas, the adventure, the beautiful nature, the diverse landscapes, that you can really appreciate. So other areas of Bali that you should focus on, Uluwatu. Now Uluwatu, it's still becoming touristed. It's still not quite like embracing the local culture, but the beaches here are beautiful, amazing. It has those massive cliffs I was telling you about. Visit Suluban Beach. It is located on the west part of the Bukit Peninsula, which that's where Uluwatu is. And it's like this little hidden beach that you can kind of crawl through a cave to get to, which be careful because the tides from the ocean are coming up. But once you go through, you have this beautiful like strip of sand with massive cliffs around you and not that many people there. The water is so warm and beautiful, and there's some good areas to swim at as well. It's paradise. It's an adventure. Getting there is part of the fun too. And just cruising around Uluwatu on a scooter and the rest of Bali is just such a fun adventure. There's like these loopy, hilly roads by the coast. You can feel the ocean breeze. There's still lots of beautiful businesses and cute cafes, but it's way more chilled out than Canggu was. At least when I was there in 2022. I'm sure it's all kind of like expedited since then, as Bali will continue to bring in people in this like remote working digital nomad age that we live in nowadays. So, but anyway, if you want like a beachy experience or beach town kind of feel for visiting Bali, Uluwatu is the perfect place in my opinion. It's my favorite. It also culturally has one of my favorite attractions, which is the Uluwatu Temple. This offers so many really cool things, but keep in mind it will be busy because it's one of the most popular temples in Bali, and it's not too far off the beaten path, that's for sure. But what Uluwatu Temple has is it takes advantage of the location of Uluwatu because it's a Hindu temple located on top of a cliff, just perched over the hillside, where you can see waves crashing. You can catch an unbelievable sunset. The scenic sights, it's a little redundant, but you get what I'm saying. They're unbelievable. And there are plenty of monkeys along the Uluwatu Temple, which is really cool because I can't really see monkeys where I'm from, so that's a cool wildlife experience. But they're very badly behaved. A lot of the workers, they have to like use bananas as like kind of like a positive reward to give the monkeys a chance to give up the phones they steal from people, cameras they steal, glasses they steal. And I saw a monkey steal glasses off a girl's head and like chew them to bits. And by the time she got them back, there was a bunch of like little bite marks in the lens, and like they're all twisted and mangled. So the monkeys here are very bad. They know if they steal shiny things, the workers will give them bananas to give them up the shiny things, and you can see the feedback loop that creates for the monkeys. So, but regardless, just put yourself in a bag, try and hide it away from the monkeys. Don't give them any food. Don't try and get super close. Enjoy them and move on. And then at nighttime, they actually have the Kecak fire dance, which is one of the most cool cultural things you can see in Bali. It's this fire dance that's been like done for hundreds of years. And it's just a really cool cultural experience. There's some lore about it with like the gods and the chanting that the people do together in unison in this kind of like little outdoor stadium that you can watch. Definitely do some research on that so you understand the context of the fire dance. But it's a really cool, fun thing that you can add to this attraction, which is the Uluwatu Temple, of course. And besides Uluwatu, maybe spend some time in Canggu for the reasons I told you about earlier. But a really popular touristed area of Bali that is definitely worth the hype, I think, is Ubud. Because Ubud, it's more north. It's more in the center of Bali compared to like the southern areas of Uluwatu and Canggu. But Ubud, it's more culturally rich. The buildings are much more traditional. I guess there's palaces that you can visit like right in the town of Ubud. And yeah, Ubud, it's one of the more walkable areas of Bali too. So if you don't have a scooter, this is a good place to base yourself because there's lots of attractions you can walk to and little back streets, and there's sidewalks, which although they can be used for like parking scooters, and you might not feel like you're escaping the commotion that much. It's definitely one of the more walkable areas. But what Ubud really has to offer is, again, the palaces, which are really beautiful. You can see like the royal palace where the royalty of Bali, I think, lived today, or at least lived previously. And you also can visit rice fields. There's one in town, which I think is like the ultimate hidden gem because it has like a sweet orange trail, which goes from like the main streets of Ubud back in like the lush green jungle area of Ubud. Because compared to the coastal areas of like Uluwatu and Kuta, it's really, you're starting to go at the base of like the mountains in Bali. So it's more green, it's more lush, it's more jungly, it's more humid, but you have beautiful rice fields. And the Kajang rice fields, you take this sweet orange trail, you get away from the commotion, the scooters, you might see some here and there. But you can walk on these rice fields that are like 10 minutes away from like the city center, and they're really vast. There's different trails for you to veer off and explore. There you have the sweet orange warung, which is one of my favorite restaurants in all of Ubud, in all of Bali. It's extremely peaceful. They have amazing coffee, which you can obviously order and just drink while taking views of the rice fields. They have really good satay and really good curry. Delicious food, amazing vibes. This is a gem of Bali. It's not a hidden gem, but it definitely doesn't get as many tourists as other parts. And it's right in Ubud. You can just walk there, so it's really convenient. You also have lots of waterfalls near Ubud. Tuket Japong is a really popular one. It's like in this cave that you can visit. It's kind of like an Instagram-y kind of, not a gimmick, but it's like overly used for photo shoots. It's really pretty. Tibumana is one of my personal favorites. It's like all of them are about an hour or less from Ubud. You can book them with like a tour, hire a driver from the day in the town. But to get around Bali, I really recommend using a scooter because a scooter will just give you ultimate freedom and flexibility to adventure around the island. It's best to know how to use a scooter before going to Bali because in some of the touristy areas, it can be really busy. And people can drive a little bit crazy, not crazy, but like just different driving rules than me and you are used to. It's kind of like a moving entity. It's like you give and take. You cut people off sometimes, but they let you go. And then they'll cut you off, but you let them go. You kind of like all stop and move together versus like hard stop signs that you would experience like in places like America. And, you know, which is better? That's up for you to decide. Whichever one probably causes less accidents. So you can reach these waterfalls very easily that way. And Tibumana is gorgeous. It's more in the jungle, and it's this beautiful, kind of like little natural pool setting at the end of a trail where there's a really big pool of water that's collecting from this waterfall hanging off of this ledge that's maybe like 50 feet above where you're standing. And it's just like a perfectly straight, maybe like 15-foot wide waterfall just dumping out into this pool that you can swim in. And it's just incredibly gorgeous. So those are some waterfalls you can visit. There's lots of temples around the area as well, such as like Pura Tirta Empul. This is like a holy water temple where you can go and do this bathing ceremony, which a lot of Balinese people do. It's a really cool cultural experience to watch it and partake in as well. And yeah, there's lots of good food. in Ubud as well. They also have the Champuhan Ridgewalk, which is another good place to walk. You can walk there from the town center, but it's best to take a scooter to like the entrance of the walking area. And this is this little ridge that goes into the valley around Ubud where you can get away from the scooters. It's only pedestrians there, and you can get great views of the valley and not rice fields, but just really green, lush, and beautiful, and a good way to reconnect with nature in Ubud. So Ubud, I think you should definitely spend like 3 days at least there. But there are some areas that kind of has what Ubud has without being as busy. Kind of like you can imagine how Ubud might have been like 30 years ago before tourism blew up. If you go more east, this is going to be area of Bali known as Sidaman. There's other areas like Amid around it as well, but Sidaman is kind of the main hub where it's just rice fields as far as the eye can see. You have Mount Agung in the distance, which is beautiful. And while Sidaman doesn't have as many like attractions that you can like concretely put on like a Google Maps and like visit and check it off your list, it's more about the vibe. It's more about the adventure. It's more about cruising around on a scooter, stopping at little place that catches your interest, a little cafe or restaurant that, that's kind of cool. Let me take a peek here. Oh, this is a great viewpoint of Mount Agung. I'm going to go stop here and just really take it in and appreciate the beauty here. And just take life slow. Eat some good food. Take in the views and the relaxed pace of life here in Sidaman compared to Ubud or Canggu or Uluwatu. And there are some popular attractions here, such as the Temple of Heaven. This is like the famous like white gate that's outside of Hindu temple. And you have Mount Agung in the background. But this place, guys, do not go. Really beware, unless you're the Instagrammer, influencer, traveler type, which do your thing for content if you really want to, but it's a waste of time for your personal experience, I think, because the actual picture, it's a gimmick. They use a mirror below the camera lens to reflect like the sky, so it makes it seem like you're in this like dream world kind of state when it's just like a normal not sidewalk, but normal like concrete floor that leads up to the gate. So it's a gimmick. And they actually give you like a little card when you walk in the temple, and they call out your number on a speakerphone. And there's just all these people sitting around in their sarongs or just waiting to be called. They told us we would have to wait 2 hours. 2 hours for this gimmicky picture. It's just, for me, that kind of just goes against everything I want travel to be. It's not about just showing to people like, oh, look at me, I went to Bali. Oh, look at this really beautiful picture, guys. It's like a super famous picture and I got my own. No, it's about personal experience, and like share that with other people if you want to, but do it for yourself. Do it to enrich your own life and give you like new perspectives or new deeper meanings, or just to look back on and be so thankful that you had that experience and met people along the way. So anyway, don't need to get on that tangent, but you kind of can understand what I'm saying. And again, to briefly re-reference the overhyped or underrated, overrated conversation about Bali. A lot of Bali, sadly, is like infected with that influence culture. With some of the waterfalls around Ubud, there'll be like lines. Kanto Lampo is the one I'm thinking of. There'll be like lines in the water, like 30 minutes going upstairs, like to the entrance of the actual like waterfall. You pay to get in, and then there's like people there, maybe workers who will like offer to take your picture for you. It's like, what are we doing, guys? This is not like, it's just silly. It's so silly. It's a business, but it's just become, these are just Instagram's like influencer spots for pictures versus beautiful places to visit. So keep in mind some of the famous places if you want to check them out for your own personal interest. Some of them live up to the hype, like the Uluwatu temple lives up to the hype. Tanalat is another beautiful temple. It's actually located more near Canggu, so that's a really interesting place as well. It's another gorgeous seaside temple, but maybe choose one if you're like on a limited time. I would probably say Uluwatu Temple, but Tanalat is also really beautiful Hindu temple on the sea as well. It kind of is located on an island that when it's high tide, the ocean comes up and covers the walking path. So it looks like a floating temple, like out in the ocean. But at low tide, you can walk out and take the path to the actual island and walk around the temple grounds for that little building on its own. So yeah, beware of those Instagrammer influencer locations. But like I said, a lot of them are still worth the hype. And sorry, I know I'm kind of all over the place a little bit today. I guess that's what maybe 4 shots of espresso can do to your brain. But while we're talking about rice fields and the beauty of Sidaman, there is one that is really popular, but I think meets the hype back in Ubud, the place we're talking about with the Kajing rice field, which is a hidden gem. This is going to be the Tegalalang rice fields. Tegalalang rice fields. And They are like the most picturesque rice fields I've ever seen in my life. They're very famous. I think they're like the iconic rice fields in Bali. What makes them so special is they're terraced, going down this little valley. When the valley around you has like these beautiful tall palm trees, kind of like lining and like enclosing you in these terraced rice fields. And it's not just like a little tiny spot you go to get a picture. You can get lost in these. They are massive. We actually had to like ask a local to help us find our way out. He asked for money at the end of it. Smart little job of his, to be honest, because I guess a lot of tourists like us get allured, get attracted by the rice fields and want to endlessly explore them. Because there are some areas where they have like these swings you can pay to like ride and get a picture on for the gram, but you can easily get away from those, get deep into the rice fields, see people farming rice in the morning. Go there before it gets too busy. Go there in the morning time before the heat comes as well. And yeah, after you're done, go back up to the top of the valley, go to a beautiful cafe overlooking the rice fields, get a nice cool drink, and take in the views of these absolutely beautiful rice fields. My favorite. So anyway, keep those in mind. Definitely visit them. They're not just like a popular touristed place that's overrated. They're majestic, life-changing. Okay, so that's Ubud and Siedeman, Uluwatu. Let's get even more off the beaten path. Go north when visiting Bali. Because from Ubud, you can actually go more deep in the mountains where it becomes cooler. There's a lake called Lake Baratan, and I stayed the night there, and it was just so nice. I felt like I was in a different island because you actually like would want to wear a sweater there. Believe it or not, it can get like 60 degrees, 50 degrees maybe Fahrenheit. Maybe 70s, like 50s to 70s. It can rain a lot and it's cloudy because like the clouds get trapped there from the mountains. And it just has a really beautiful lake with lots of mist over it. These small little like rolling hills or mountains around you. And it has a really beautiful temple. I think it's the Ulundanu Beratan Temple, which is another floating temple on the lake. It's really beautiful. It's touristed, but it's definitely worth taking in because I love Hindu temples on Bali. So that's a really cool area. And around there too, there's lots to see and do and explore. Because as you go even more north from here, you have the best waterfalls in the entire island. My two favorites are going to be Sekampul, which Sekampul is the tallest waterfall in all of Bali. And it's like popular to a point. Maybe some people book tours, but because it's kind of far away from the main touristy areas, it's really not going to be that busy. And there's lots of area for you to take in and enjoy the waterfall. You actually have to pay for a guide once you get there because tourism, I guess. It gives people there a job, so I can't like complain that much, but it is unnecessary. They just like walk you down some stairs and like tell you the waterfall and just like kind of hang out and maybe hold your stuff while you swim or want to take a picture. But second pool, once you catch a view of it, you're like going down into the valley, I guess. I don't know how else to refer to it. But as you start to go down and you can see the waterfall, it kind of is like a multiple stream waterfall just hanging over these cliffs going down into the pool. And the waterfall it's so tall. It feels like something you would see maybe in like Brazil or somewhere deep in the Amazon rainforest. Is just magnificent. And you can swim in the pool, feel the strength of the water hitting the pool below you, and you can swim and look up and just see just how glorious the second pool is. Just look up a picture of it and you will probably recognize it. It makes for really good pictures too in case you care for that. But anyway, so that second pool, it is like the iconic waterfall in Bali in my opinion. And then you also have Aling Aling, which whereas second pool is just like a visual feast that you can just go there, stare at, appreciate, swim in the pool, sure. Aling Aling is a beautiful waterfall, but it is also like a gauntlet of really fun adrenaline activities that you can do upon visiting and entering. It's so much fun because what you do at Ling Ling is you kind of show up there. Again, you have to pay for a guide. They'll walk you around. They'll show you the areas. They're not too like intrusive or invasive. They kind of just like are loosely accompanying you, kind of like a chaperone. But anyway, they don't really like interfere with you too much if you want some space, which is cool. But it has like a natural slide from one of the waterfalls where you go into this pool, and then you have a series of cliff jumps that you can perform, which are really exciting. It starts from like 5 meters or like 15 feet and goes to like 45 feet or like 15 meters or so, maybe like 45, 50 feet for a really intense jump at the end, which is really fun. And then they take you to the Blue Lagoon at the end after you visit Aling Waterfall, which actually means twin in, I think, Balinese. Which Aling Waterfall, the actual waterfall itself, is gorgeous. Beautiful. Not quite as cool as Second Pool, but among one of the top 10 most beautiful waterfalls I've ever seen in my life. And then after that, you visit the Blue Lagoon, which is like this little paradise swimming hole right in the jungle. The water is a beautiful crystal blue. It's very still and calm. You can swim up to this little like cave entrance or like little canyon and then like do a little rope swing. I do wish the guide wasn't there, just like staring at you, having fun, asking you for a picture, so you can totally be in the moment. But I just totally enjoyed it so much. It was magical. It's a magical attraction and a magical thing to visit and see in the north of Bali. And if you continue more north, you'll reach the north coast of the island of Bali, in a town called Lovina, which is famous for dolphin sightseeing, because you can pay to go out on a boat and you'll be like riding amongst dolphins. But ecologically, I do think this is a problem because it's become such like a influx of tourism for the town, and there's just dozens and dozens of boats that go out there early in the morning and just desperately chase around the dolphins, which I don't like. So with the tour operator we booked, they were more hanging back, not cramping the dolphin style as much, kind of let the dolphins swim up to you, and they might like slowly follow along the dolphins, but then leave them alone and not like chase them and like just really cause them stress, because they probably come to this part of the water either to like hunt or to like rest before going out and trying to enjoy the warm waters off the coast of Bali. So that can be problematic. And the tour operator I used was Popeyes, because again, they have the reputation of not harassing the dolphins and trying to be more mindful of the ecology. So that's a really cool experience as well. And on top of that, there's just cruising around these areas is just beautiful. There's also a hot springs. I knew I was forgetting something. A hot springs just west of Lovina. It's called the something Air. Terjun Air Hot Springs, I think is the name of it. You can find it on the map. And I love hot springs. You don't really need them in Bali because a lot of areas are hot. But it's just a really cool place to soak and relax and enjoy the benefits of thermal water from like the volcanic activity in Bali. So Lovina is beautiful. The center around Lake Baraton are beautiful. Sitaman is a must visit. Uba is a must visit. Uluwatu is a must visit as well. Canggu and Seminyak, take it as you will. So what's the total time you should spend in Bali? The real answer is the rest of your life. No. But realistically, on a vacation, I think if you want to combine all these activities and places together to get all the different sides of Bali, to get like the culture, the beaches, the waterfalls, the rice fields, the lakes, maybe the volcanoes like Mount Agung, 2 weeks minimum. I think a month would really give you more time to like soak it up or take things in. If you want to kind of just focus on more, maybe like you want to do Ubud and some of the more off the beaten path places in the north and east, a week, maybe a week and a half would be okay. 2 weeks is ideal. Or if you want to focus more on maybe like Uluwatu, take you in the beach, do some of the day trips I'm going to tell you about in a second, and then maybe just get some of that cultural, rice fieldy, jungly kind of vibe more in Ubud with some day trips and stuff from there. Maybe a week or 2 weeks would be enough. But besides just this in Bali, which is already so much, and there's more hidden gems too. Like if you go further east of Mount Agung, you have the town of Ahmed, which is more of a volcanic beach. There's some beautiful beaches along there. It's really quiet as well. But besides Bali, you have many islands that you can easily visit, which are beautiful. The most famous ones are the Nusa Islands, Nusa Penida. It has like that famous Keling King Beach, which is like kind of T-Rex beach. It has like tons of stairs you need to walk down. It has beautiful, pristine white sand and beautiful blue tropical water hitting it. It's iconic. It's one of the most famous viewpoints in Indonesia. You can visit as a day trip, but it's going to be like another kind of Instagram tour, which I don't really want. It's really cool, beautiful sights. If you visit Nusa Penida, you can easily take a ferry over from Bali. Or not easily. You can do it as long as you go to the port and then figure that out. You can book it as a tour, which might make it a little bit easier to manage. But just go there on your own. The roads there are a little less kept up than Bali. So if you have a scooter and you're a novice, be very careful. I saw tourists literally almost die. We were in a car and they were coming down this really steep road to the beach and they slipped on a rock and the guy and girl spilled off the bike. And their heads were like literally that close to being like under the tire of our car as we were like slamming on our brakes, stopping while going up. And the girl, she was like shaking. She was all cut up. And it was like a near near-death experience that someone had. So be very careful. Not to like try and scare you away from using the scooters, but just be very careful, please. But I think if you were to explore Nusa Penida on your own, you can enjoy more of the beautiful, dramatic coastline because it has massive cliffs, beautiful beaches, such as Diamond Beach as well, with these massive white sea stacks that you don't really get in Bali besides Uluwatu. But my favorite my favorite islands off the coast of Bali that you can visit on ferry is going to be the Gili Islands. These are 3 little islands that are actually closer to the island of Lombok, which is becoming a more popular tourist destination because people are getting kind of tired of Bali's westernization and congestion, and the rising prices in some areas probably as well. So what is really cool about, I'm going to focus on Gili Trawangan. That's the most popular island, and it's the one I visited, is there are no cars allowed on this island. People just ride around on bicycles. There are horse carriages. Please don't use them. The horses are not treated well. They're exhausted. They're in the heat all day. They're carrying around people. It's really unethical and really abusive to animals. So please don't do that, whether you're vegan or not. It's just morally, it's like riding elephants in Thailand. It's really not good. Please don't do it. Rent bicycles. It's a tiny island. It's so magical to just slowly cruise around, take your time, stop at these little beaches. There's amazing snorkeling opportunities on Gili Trawangan. Surfing is really good in Gili Trawangan. The waves are very gentle. It's very chilled out. It's perfect for beginner surfers learning, the ropes on that. And you can just easily go to like a little beach, catch a sunset, get a couple drinks, and just relax. There's a bit of like some party areas as well if you want to like live it up and do that kind of thing. And the food's pretty good as well. So I think Gili Trawangan is magical. I met some travelers who were doing a trip to Bali. They hated Bali. They were not a fan at all. They couldn't use scooters, so maybe they were like more forced to just walk around areas like Canggu because that's what's marketed as a place you must visit. It really doesn't live up to the hype in a lot of ways, in my opinion. We spent a month in Canggu and we were like ready to leave after like a week or two, to be honest. And that was just slow travel while like working and also just like kind of hanging out and taking in the sights and the vibes and the atmosphere. So, but anyway, this couple, British couple, we met them in Thailand. They loved Gili Trawangan. They were going to stay like 3 nights and they ended up staying 2 weeks just because of the slow island feel, getting around on bicycles, the little beaches, little gems along the way, and it's just magical. It really has like a really, I wouldn't say sleepy, but just that slow life feeling that makes you just so relaxed and at ease that I just love on beach vacations in general. So Gili Trawangan, it's worth staying for a few days, and that could easily extend your time in Bali if you're trying to see and do all these things that we talked about here. And of course, there's more. You can do the Komodo Island tour, which I'm not a huge expert on, but I had some friends that did it and they really loved it as well. It's kind of like a multiple day venture out to Komodo Island. You see a pink beach. You see Flores Island, I think it's called, which has some unbelievable scenery. Indonesia is just a gorgeous part of the world, guys. I need to go back ASAP. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all you need to know for Bali. There's lots more you can figure out or go off the beaten path. My final point about Bali, which in case you can't tell, just explore, adventure, write down these major attractions that stick out to you, but just cruise around, see what comes up. When I was in East Bali, we found Jagasutri waterfall. We were the only ones there. It had a beautiful gold Buddha. Or not Buddha, a beautiful gold like Hindu statue. No one was there. A beautiful waterfall like in the jungle. No one was there. It was just me and Vanessa. We stumbled upon like a snake fruit farm with the nicest lady who like she walked us around the snake fruit farm and picked some fruit for us. It's like an Indonesian fruit that tastes kind of like a mixture of like an apple and a pineapple, and it grows and like has like a peel, I guess you can call it, or like a skin out on the outside that looks like snake skin. That's why it's called snake fruit. It's very sharp and prickly. Where else can you do something like that? The waterfalls, there's plenty more that are hidden gems. There's plenty more temples you can just stumble upon along the way. Plenty of warungs where they serve delicious Indonesian Balinese food at a really good price. Friendly people will come up and talk to you if like you're placed a little bit more off the beaten path where they're not like berated by tourists. So the people in Bali as well, I really need to tell you, are some of the kindest people considering how many like tourists visit their island. They literally look so content with life, even though life in Bali can be difficult with natural disasters and like maybe like some lack of infrastructure for picking up trash and managing tourism. but they just have the most like pure smiles where they're just so happy and content and really appreciative of life and things around them, which rubs off on you. It really does. It's a really incredible experience. So I love Bali. I definitely think it's underrated for the reasons I talked about, and it's overrated for the reasons I mentioned as well. And you should definitely visit it and try and do as many of these things I mentioned as possible. So what do you think? Are you going to visit Bali? I would love to hear from you. And make sure to check out our next podcast episode where we talk about some more travels or other things that might benefit you on your own travels as well. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.